Next on BYUSN, it's a trap. What's the biggest trap game on BYU football's 2023 schedule? We'll discuss.
And today's best BYU football wins bracket features 2 all-time wins over Utah. Which is our favorite?
They're all wonderful, but you got to pick a favorite. Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Wednesday, June 14th. I am Spencer Linton, alongside a man who has teamed up with lifelong Texas A&M fan. Wait, what? Jarom Jordan.
I would argue against that. But Big Game Boomer is saying BYU and Texas A&M fans are exactly alike in one of his latest social media offerings. I don't necessarily understand this one per se. I was hoping to get some insight from David Nixon at some point, who's from College Station and nearly went to Texas A&M.
Yes.
But went to BYU. So we'll have to get a little more info from BGB, who was on the show during the fall on that one.
Big Game Boomer already hit the pinnacle with
the parking one.
Yes, parking post.
I think you should retire. Just end on top. Just
you're done.
Jim Brown that.
You're done, man.
You're well done.
But a tie-over with Texas A&M. Yeah, I was trying to draw parallels and just could not come to a significant conclusion that is accurate.
We'll have to think about that one.
Okay.
We'll search, ponder, and pray on that one. Maybe 2 of those 3. Okay, on today's show, what's the biggest trap game on the schedule? Plenty of opportunities there for traps. Let's hopefully BYU shows up in these. Brian Logan weighs in on that and his standouts in the secondary. What's your favorite win over Utah? There's a head-to-head matchup in today's best win bracket, and an inside look at the men's basketball facial recognition tech for shooting analytics. Spencer and I went over to the Marriott Center Annex to get the latest with Keegan Brown.
Plenty of time for us to take action, get things going, rise and shout. Let's get to what's trending. What's trending, presented by Tim Daly Ford, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. Trap games are the topic of choice. As we look at the 2023 BYU football schedule, 10 Power Fives, first time ever. They open with 2 games the Cougars should win and will be heavily favored in. Of those 12 games on the regular season schedule, Jarom, which qualifies as the biggest trap game for BYU?
So it's game 10, and it's Iowa State.
Really?
Here's why it's Iowa State. The week before, BYU is coming off its longest road trip of the season at West Virginia. So that will take a toll in some way on BYU. Hopefully not in the game. Hopefully just early the next week. BYU's a little gassed, whatnot. We'll see what time that game's at. Then BYU comes home for Iowa State. But the next week is what you look at with the trap game. It's that Oklahoma on senior day is sitting there. And hopefully BYU's bowl eligible and 6-4 at this point, or 6-3 or something, and really ahead of it where they're not fighting for a bowl game at this point. But it's kind of a 50-50, right, for ESPN FPI there, nearly. Oklahoma is enticing whether they're good or not sitting there on senior day. I just hope BYU doesn't look ahead, which is the main trap thing for me, to where BYU is focused on Iowa State, who hopefully BYU can win at home. To me, that's one of the more winnable games at home. But if you're peeking ahead too far and you go, ooh, Oklahoma next week, senior day, where hopefully BYU's in a position, again, where a bowl game's in play or they've clinched and maybe they need it. Maybe that helps. But Iowa State, to me, is a little tricky, not because of Iowa State, but because of travel the week before and a massive opponent coming up the next week.
Is BYU even capable of overlooking a Power 5 opponent? That's why I struggled with this topic. They're all Power 5 opponents.
Yes, they are capable.
I just, because BYU has never played a full conference Power 5 schedule, I just don't know. I don't know that they can even get to a mindset where they're at liberty of overlooking.
Liberty, you say?
That was the trap game last year, and I picked it.
Yeah.
And I hate that I was right about it. I hated that game. That's one of my least favorite games in BYU football history, the Liberty game. I don't feel like there is that type of opponent once you get deep into the schedule for BYU. When you have 10 Power 5s. So I'm like, can BYU, can they even get there? Can they even get to a point where they're like, yeah, we should probably beat this Power 5 opponent?
1 gajillion %. Because BYU feels like it's been Power 5 worthy for a long time, right? So it's like, well, within this space, we feel like we should win this game at home, regardless of who it is, right?
You can make
BYU
the same case
absolutely get to this.
You can
place.
make the same case with that setup and your logic for Texas Tech, with Texas approaching,
That's my
right?
second pick. Texas Tech would be
so if
that
that
one.
logic applies.
Squeezed between TCU on the road and Texas on the road. That one's a tough one.
So both home games with big name, huge brand opponents later down the line.
Yeah, that's the definition of trap game. We've overlooked this team because next week it's a bigger game.
And see, I just don't know. I just can't. I could not buy into this morning the idea that BYU can overlook a Power 5 conference Big 12 opponent in their inaugural season. Maybe a few years down the road, I don't know.
No, it'll happen quickly, trust me.
BYU's the new kid, so...
BYU, listen, if BYU starts 4-1, we're getting cocky fast, okay?
Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. Okay, this is, and I can't wait for the backlash of this. Betzer, what are you talking about? My trap game is the season opener against Sam Houston State. BYU, listen, what is the definition of a trap game? Overlooked opponent, big favorite often, okay? Supposed to dominate. I think the line's too high. So do you. We talked about this. 24
Yeah, but we're talking about winning
favorite.
and losing, not margin.
Tons of big games ahead. 10 Power 5s later down the line. Like BYU's supposed to handle Sam Houston State.
Sure.
The Cougars have 20 transfers. They have an entirely revamped defensive staff. This is the first game, first time they will have an opportunity to try and gel all together on the field in game number 1. Yes, Sam Houston State is not by any means a powerful opponent, but they have great history. They have great pride in their product. Their head coach, Casey Keeler, 80-23, now into his 8th season. They were the FCS. They were the FCS national champions in 2020. They're a perennial FCS power.
Yeah.
They've been to the national championship game 3 times in the last 12 years. This is a program that has everything to prove, nothing to lose, to go out and try and make some type of statement against BYU. If the Cougars are not sharp and don't come out of the gate playing well with all of these new pieces and they're trying to figure things out, I wouldn't be surprised if it got weird for a little while.
But is BYU losing the game?
No, but that doesn't necessarily mean like a trap game doesn't mean that the team ultimately loses. It's just, are you caught off guard? Like, whoa, can it get to that weird territory? If BYU is not careful against their season opening opponent with all of the things that lie ahead, first Big 12 year, Arkansas, Kansas, Cincinnati, all
Southern
these
Utah the
games.
next game, but yeah.
So BYU's supposed to dominate the first 2 games, which we hope they will, which we think they should.
If they don't win by 17 plus, it's a disappointment.
Exactly.
But 17 is still underwhelming against Sam Houston. Sam Houston has had an incredible defense, but their offense is terrible. So if the BYU defense doesn't show up, sure, but okay, Sam Houston.
I'm looking at the
battle of 2 dudes.
The definition of trap game, which is just you're supposed to dominate, you overlook the opponent. There are several big games down the line. It's just we'll take care of them and then get on to the next big thing, which eventually will become Arkansas. Yeah, Sam Houston, Southern Utah is not a good FCS program. Sam Houston has the history of being a great FCS program, and they're making the jump to Division I. So again, they have nothing to lose. BYU's paying them to come to Provo. This is a situation where BYU in years recent has relished, like they have thrived. You paid us to come and play this game. You're supposed to kick our butts. And in some cases, BYU's won that game.
BYU a different kind of opponent to those opponents than Sam Houston to BYU. But yes.
I'm just saying, like, it could get weird if BYU is not sharp out of the gate.
And that's okay.
So many new things for BYU. Sam Houston does return a lot of experience, even though they were only 5-4 last year.
Yeah,
not a great season.
Their offense was pathetic.
Okay?
The defense was really good.
Defense, super good. Again, they have nothing to lose and everything to gain, everything to prove that, hey, we belong. Let's go out and play a tough game.
I don't expect BYU to be that sharp in game 1, frankly. It's a new quarterback, a new running back, a revamped offensive line with new guys. I don't expect BYU to be gangbusters in game 1.
Which factors into why I picked Sam Houston.
I do expect BYU to win by 17 plus in game 1. Yeah.
So but you said if they win by only 17, that would be underwhelming.
17 plus is great. Yeah.
Okay, so as long as it's at least 17, you're okay with this.
And then listen, it's about just fine-tuning those first 2 so that you're competitive in the Big 12. and that you're into a flow. I don't need BYU to win at Arkansas, but I do need BYU to hopefully beat Kansas on the road and Cincinnati at home and start. 4-1 would be nice. Now you will go to a bowl game if you start 4-1. Like, you're going to win 2 of the next 7.
That's the hope. That's BYU. Whoever they beat, they can just piece together a 4-1 record in the opening 5.
That'd be amazing.
Okay.
I'd take 3-2 right now.
You win at Arkansas,
well.
you lose at Kansas, but you beat Cincinnati. Great, you're 4-1.
Yeah.
I don't care how BYU gets to 4-1. I just hope they get to 4-1. But if we're just talking straight up trap game, this game makes me a little bit weary because it's the first. It's new, and there are so many new parts for BYU.
Even if it was Southern Utah, yeah, it's. I don't expect just gangbusters. It's not going to be 0-1 where BYU comes out with 70 on Tulane. Like, I would love that.
We're hoping it's not 2017 where BYU struggles against Portland State, right?
Well, that's not just Portland State. That's a pathetic BYU team. Like, that's the worst BYU team in the last 50 years.
That BYU team was picked to win 10 games by Bill Connolly and ESPN.
In Vegas, yes. But no, that was a terrible BYU team. So I don't compare this team to that team at all, unless we think this team's going to be pathetic.
I don't think it's going to be either.
We don't.
Just saying we're hoping that is not the case.
We talked about trap game. Which one's the crap game, though, really? Which one on the schedule is like, oh, crap, that game? I don't know. There's not one where I go, there's no chance BYU wins. Like, there's not a game like that. Not at Arkansas, not at Texas, not at TCU, Oklahoma at home. There's no crap game. But there are trap games, as we've highlighted. So in case you missed it, in case you're just joining us, I said Iowa State. Spence said Sam Houston.
Yeah.
Okay? Which, inevitably, there's a game or 2 or 3 that sometimes you overlook. The wild thing last year is the trap game was Oregon and Liberty. Oregon, BYU did not show up at all. It was like, what happened? We're ranked 12th in the country. Shouldn't we at least have a lead at some point in this thing and be competitive? No, it wasn't.
Oregon had been blown out by Georgia.
Nope.
They were embarrassed, so we thought, this is the year Oregon's gettable.
No.
Not the case.
It was the year that Georgia was not gettable. That's we looked into that domination a little too much. Yeah.
Oh, like I said, I know that many of you are thinking, no way is Sam Houston State a trap game. But by definition, I just laid it out for you. It's everything that goes typically into a trap game. Opponent you're supposed to dominate. It's at home. The BYU has no reason to not show up and just crush this team. They're a 24-point favorite. But this is not your typical former FCS team. And this is a national championship caliber team.
Well, they're
in the FCS level.
Yeah, they went 5-4 last year.
I know. I know. The program has a ton of pride, so it makes me just a little bit weary.
Pride scores touchdowns. That's great.
If it makes you play harder, who knows? Who knows? Things can get weird. I hope they don't. That takes us to today's best win bracket conversation. Okay? This is based on BYU-Utah rivalry showdown here. Okay? We are trying to determine the greatest BYU football win all time. And this will also lead into our question of the day, which we will get to in a moment. But if you are new to the program or you're just joining this bracket fun, we lay out a matchup every day to try and determine which is the greatest in BYU football history. We will also recap the previous day's matchup and the results there. So with that in mind, let's recap a doozy of a 7-10 matchup. Red River rivalry scenario.
Red River rivalry.
7-seed 2009 Oklahoma beating the Sooners in Jerry's World against the embarrassment of Texas in 2013 when BYU ran for a program best 550 rushing yards against the Longhorns. So, moving on to the second round in that Red River rivalry showdown with 70% of the vote is the 7 seed. Chalk remains supreme in this bracket. We have had no upsets thus far. Oklahoma handily beating Texas in the 7-10 matchup.
There you go.
Okay.
That's going to be a good 2-7 right there.
Oh, man. Michigan 84 taking on 2009 Oklahoma.
I like it.
You beat a number 3 team in the country, and the other one, you win the national championship.
You beat a team that was ranked 3rd in the country earlier
at some point.
Until Jim Harbaugh broke his arm.
Until injuries. Okay, now let's get to our matchup of the day.
The battle of the Beehive Boot. Got it! Touchdown!
It ain't a game now.
Touchdown!
Lions coming out to play now.
Touchdown! Neil Powell! Gets hit and dropped. I don't think he got it.
Out of the way.
Gunnar Romney.
Out of the way.
2021 Utah, the 6th seed versus the 11th seed. 2001 Utah. Of course, massive wins in both. We start with 2021. BYU enters the game having lost 9 straight games to that team up north.
You
Utah
don't
was
say.
ranked number 21. The day before this, BYU accepted the invite to the Big 12. The defense forced 2 turnovers, got a huge 4th down stop. Jaron Hall, 3 touchdown passes, 92 yards rushing, 149 yards passing. BYU ran for 219, controlled the line of scrimmage. Right before the half, to the former Ute turned Coug, Samson Nakua for the touchdown, gives Ryan Smith some dab. Gunnar Romney with the touchdown. BYU wins it 26-17, and the celebration was on. That pair of 2 days, I thought the rapture was happening the next day. I thought we were done. Alas, we were not. We still have stuff.
BYU on their way to becoming the de facto Pac-12 South champions.
First of 5 Pac-12 victories.
9-point victory. In 2001, the 11 seed, the BYU Cougars, protecting a perfect season, ranked number 8, trailed 21-10 in the 4th quarter. Doman to Staley, 92-yard drive, cut it to 3, and then Staley gave BYU the lead. 30 yards with a little over a minute left, and Gennaro Guilford sealed the game, picking off Utah quarterback Lance Rice. BYU wins 24-21. I have heard people say it's still the loudest, craziest I've ever experienced Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
Some guy outside gave me a free ticket to this game, like 11th row. I'll never forget it. That game, okay, this is the first time, I think, where I want the lower seed, the 11 seed.
You want the 11 seed to win?
I have a 1 here. That meant so much in the moment. I know that season soured with the 2 losses at the end and Luke Staley breaking his leg. And I know the 9-game win streak day after losing streak day after the Big 12 is a huge deal. That 0-1 win was unbelievable, and it came down to the wire. And who can't defend a boundary option play? Like, what in the world? It was amazing. It was amazing.
Clearly, it was a
and the
great
interception.
call.
Oh, I love 0-1. That game was amazing. That's my vote in this one.
Okay, the 6 versus the 11. Both are wins versus the arch nemesis
Well played
Utah.
by the Bracketeers. Not to be confused with the Lumineers.
Okay, that's a perfect lead into our question of the day.
Which is juicy, man.
What is your favorite BYU win ever against Utah?
What's yours? In any sport.
In any sport?
Mine's football.
It has to be what we witnessed on the sideline in Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Back to Harley.
In 2006. It does not get more dramatic and better than that.
Yes.
It ended a 4-game losing streak to Utah.
I felt something there when you said that. 06, man.
I think about everything that happened after that game, how many phone calls I made to people, how many text messages I sent. It dominated my thoughts.
It
for
still
so
does.
long, and it remains. Like, we see
the
that
play
highlight.
has a name. When the play that won the game has a name, it's special, man.
That was incredible.
Harleen?
So it's 2006 back to Harleen for me.
That's the one to me. That's special. Yeah.
Caleb Hatch on Instagram joins the conversation. He says, Beck to Harleen all
baby.
time. Last play of the game. Pull an improbable play as time expires at their place, and to see their disappointed and stunned faces is the most satisfying win over them ever.
It's too true.
But storming the field from the Rock in 2021 was also surreal. One of the best nights of my life.
That was the celebration of getting into the Big 12, too. It wasn't just Utah. It was celebrating, hey, we finally got the validation we've sought. That 06 play is the only BYU football moment I have up on my wall. A big picture by Dan Ransom, who was our producer at iProvo when we had our Wayne's World show, a local cable access show on iProvo.
It's the shot of
covering
shots.
Provo and Timpview. It's the picture from Beck to Harleen, and our homie Dan Ransom took it, and I paid him $50 to get it in a frame, and it's in my house still, and it's the only BYU play I have up in my house. I mean, that's the one.
Wow.
The one.
At Ja L. Smith on Twitter answers Lavelle's last game.
That's a great one, too.
Aptly named Lavelle's last miracle.
Yeah.
I was sitting there in the student section with my son. I took grief from those around me
In
all
the
game
Utah
long.
student section.
It was at Utah.
Yeah, I've seen 2 games in the Utah student section. It's intense.
I still respect Lavelle and Mac for the way they conducted themselves.
Yep.
It was a kinder, gentler rivalry era.
Totally.
nice to have that final game for a legend.
Now, BYU benefited in that game, I've said it before, from no replay. Because Luke Staley absolutely fumbled.
You need some luck. You need some luck sometimes.
You need a good review, or lack thereof.
Hashtag BYUSN Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I've told you before, like, I'm not a believer in the heavens being involved in games.
God doesn't care about
I have
results.
I can count, I think 2 times, and both of these times happened when I was very young, that I prayed for BYU to win a game late. And this was one of those scenarios where I was like, Lavelle cannot go out losing to Utah.
Please not like
this. He cannot go out with a losing season. Like, there was so much on the line.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Tanner Mangum put it best. He said, when he was asked after Nebraska, he said, Dan Patrick said, do you believe that God cares about who wins and loses? And he said, I don't believe he cares about that. I believe he cares about individuals.
Yeah.
And one could argue on that night he cared about
maybe he cared about
I don't want to dig into that, Austin Collie, on and off the field, living right. But
yes.
Sometimes it sure feels like that.
The other time I prayed was in the Cotton Bowl.
I pray every third down, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, my goodness.
On July 1st, we got the Big 12 party. We're going to celebrate BYU being in the Big 12, baby. It's a BYUSN game day, July 1st, 5 Eastern time, 2-hour a dish on BYU TV, BYU Radio, and the BYU TV app. And if you're local, come hang out and party with us.
Up next, our guy Brian Logan is back in studio to discuss his favorite win over Utah ever. I think I know the answer.
Yeah, we know the answer. No one backpedals better than Brian Logan.
Is he worried that it's going to take a while for BYU to gel as well with all those new parts? This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968.
At BYU, we believe wholeheartedly in expanding joy, and that joy comes from learning and serving. Some of the best, most lasting learning happens when we serve, when we experience, when we connect in real, lasting ways. It's what we call inspiring learning. Learning that inspires us to create a better world, to do and be better. After all, light shared is the best kind of light.
This competition is going to be something else. You have to be able to break through those hard moments when it hurts the most.
Whatever you think you're capable of is true.
You're a fighter. Hold your head up. You know what you're capable of. We're all proud of you.
That's what makes a champion.
Let's go! Wow! Get deflected ball, intercepted by the Cougars. It's a takeaway, and Epps breaking tackles it in. BYU touchdown. Catch made inside the 10-yard line. Middle to Mitchell, driven back, didn't get it.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. We are live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan. Joining us now is a guy who knows a thing or two about a big win over the arch rival, Utah. Yes, which takes us to our question of the day. Brian, let's start right there.
That's the Riley chant. Riley.
Brian, what's your favorite BYU win over Utah all time?
2009.
Has to be. You played in it.
In your biased opinion.
Yeah.
That was a good one, though.
It was a great one. You know, we talk about ending the game on the last play. right? And that's what happened in 2009. Going into overtime, that was my first experience ever in the rivalry. Everybody was talking about just their experience before, like, you know, trying to prepare me. And I was like, well, whatever. You know, I just came to BYU and was involved in the program, you know, maybe 4 or 5 months, you know, prior. So to me, it wasn't a big deal. All I knew was I just couldn't wear red. And I remember driving on the bus to the stadium, and I look over, we were at a stop sign. I look over to the left, and just, you know, Utah fans tailgating. And, you know, somebody gave me a hand gesture.
They said you were the #1 guy?
Yeah, yep. And that's when, for some, I don't know what it was, like, it just took over my spirit. I was like, oh, I'm in this. This is real. Like, I'm ready to go. I got mad and pissed off like everybody else did.
Full disclosure, we do this to you before every game day as well, just to get you going. Just to get you going.
That's right.
We do not do that.
Spencer doesn't do that.
Don't speak for David Nixon and Blaine and David.
Fair. That's fair.
So yeah,
I do not do that.
09 was, and then you know, when I was stuck on the field because, you know, the crowd rushed, and I always remember a fan that you know, grabbed my hand and picked me up and crowd surfed me all the way to the locker room because I was stuck. And so that entire experience, man, being lifted, you know, at the other 20 all the way to the end zone.
You went that far?
I went that far, and I in the middle of it, I left my helmet. So I was like, oh wait, my helmet, take me back. And they're like, no, we'll get it.
Equipment staff will grab it.
So I'm sitting there waiting for a little bit, right? And they're like pushing me up and down. And there's pictures of this, right? There's not videos, but there's pictures. While I'm waiting for my helmet, I see my helmet count. I grab my helmet, and I go in the locker room and celebrate. So that whole experience, man, was amazing.
There's video. It's just an SD from the mountain.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no 4K.
Yeah, we can't really decipher what was going on.
You can see some random, you know, dot.
It's very pixelated. It's hard.
Being slowly
like
moved across the field.
You know it's me because I'm this big. So
yeah, it's you were a cleat. We couldn't tell. Okay, the best win bracket today is a good one because we've got 2001 versus Utah, which was special as well, and then 21.
Yeah.
The recency bias may win the day, which is fine. That should play into it too. That 21 game was so special. Like the Big 12 invite the day before, ending the streak. Mm-hmm. And it sort of just ushered in like, we're not playing you for the next 2 years too, kind of deal. Yeah. That win is one of the best in BYU history, which is why it's seated in this bracket. What do you remember from that day and that night of beating Utah and ending the streak?
It was surreal, you know. I hate to make it sound like that, like it was like a big deal. I mean, obviously it was, but man, it was almost like we've arrived. It was almost like, hey, we've had so long of just trying to get over this hump, right? And trying to compete with somebody that's at a Power 5 level, and I mean that's a good program. Right?
I like that phrasing that you used. We've arrived because there's multiple levels to that based on. We've arrived. We've been validated as a Power 5 team. Right. We've been invited. We've accepted. And then you take on the power team in the Pac-12 at the moment, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. And, you know, a good way to measure yourself is against a quality opponent in good competition. And I don't like them at all. They're a good program, though. I'm not going to sit here and lie. We all know that they're a good program. We got to give them props. So, you know, to beat a good program like that, and a program that you don't like as well, right? And for so long, I was on the last team that beat Utah. So
you ended the streak, and then you started the streak in 2010.
Right. that's right. So, you know, it was bittersweet for me personally, and just being a little selfish. Whenever I was out in the community and people would, you know, talk mess like, oh, you guys haven't beat Utah in X amount of years, I'm like, I was on the last team that beat Utah. And then everybody would stop. So and now I can't say that anymore.
That's the 72 Dolphins of BYU.
I played on the team that last beat Utah. And would you like to continue this conversation?
I didn't lose in 2016 or whatever. Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly.
Brian, I might be crazy, you know. And
yes.
When I was talking about the trap game scenario, I just don't know if BYU, because they're new to the Power 5, I certainly can't get there where I'm like, I can overlook a Power 5 opponent. BYU's going to play 10 Power 5s. How do you overlook a conference Power 5 opponent. Right. Jarom's logic is sound in that like big games, like
because they might be
Texas and
2-7 at the time. The opponent might be.
But for me, the trap game on the schedule is the first game that BYU plays because they're supposed to win and supposed to win handily. But there are so many moving parts, 20 new pieces out of the transfer portal. You have a brand new defensive coaching staff. How does it all gel together? BYU, again, as a 24-point favorite, they're supposed to just come in here and handle Sam Houston. Sam Houston's a team that was the FCS national champion in 2020. They got nothing to lose, Brian. But maybe am I crazy to pinpoint the first game against a team you should dominate as a trap game?
You know, when I got this question this morning, I chuckled. I was like, I don't see a trap game at all.
You know, there's no trap games on the schedule.
Nope, that's why I chuckled. Because
2009 Brian thinks there's no trap game.
I think, you know, it's funny.
Not a single one.
You know what's funny? In 2009, I thought the trap game was Florida State. You know, and it ended up being Florida State.
To the tune of a 26-point loss.
Yeah, well, you know,
I thought we didn't talk about Florida State.
You know,
you didn't want to.
I've forgiven myself.
Oh, we're talking now?
Yeah, we can talk about it now.
Gotcha. Okay.
I forgave myself like 3 weeks ago, so.
Recently?
We're good. Yeah. It's a little new for me.
That's good. That's good.
But you know, I think just the scenario of BYU going into the Big 12. Man, it's like every game is
big.
Is a Super Bowl. Yeah. That's the feeling. That's the vibe I get. Maybe if it was year 3, year 4.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like it'll take a few years.
Yeah.
But again, I don't disagree entirely with Jarom. Like Texas and Oklahoma are huge names, and you face Texas Tech and Iowa State before those two respective opponents. So perhaps that could factor in at some point middle of the season.
What if BYU 6-3 going into the Iowa State game in Game 10, and Iowa State is 2-7?
Then it becomes a trap game.
Then it may feel like, oh, we should win this game, and Oklahoma's next week.
Yeah, situational.
Right now, everyone's even. Like, who knows? What if
BYU's only favored in 4 games right now, and 2 of them are the first 2, right?
Yes, and BYU will benefit from being the underdog and become a trap game for opponents this year quite a bit, I think. I think certain opponents will overlook BYU should they struggle at times.
Sure.
I think BYU jumps out quick this year, goes 4-1 or 3-2 in the first 5, and then the back 6 are going to be a challenge. Give us some insight into what you think this is going to be like for BYU to play 10 Power 5s in a row. And that in that like 5th and 6th game when we're like late October, early November, and BYU's beat up, how do they stay in it to get enough wins to make a bowl game?
Stay healthy. I mean,
how much of that is luck?
5%.
You can control whether you get injured or not? 95%?
I think it's that low of staying healthy. Like it's not a ton of luck involved.
I think understanding angles, understanding how to get hit and take hits plays a huge factor into it. So maybe 10%.
It's doubled already.
At this level, you should know. Like, here's a good example. As a corner, if I see two pulling guards and a pulling guard and a pulling tackle,
you pull a hamstring suddenly.
Oh no, I get blocked. No. And the running back is right behind both of those linemen. Well, when I come in, I'm gonna try to dive through the lineman's outside leg to hit the running back, right? I'm not going to try to square up with anybody. If I try to square up and take on the running back, I'm going to get all the additional weight with me, right? So I'm going to have 2-3 guys that I'm trying to tackle essentially. And that's not a good formula, you know, trying to tackle 600 pounds.
Avoidable.
So that's what I'm saying. That's avoidable. Understanding those type of scenarios, putting your body in positions and situations where you can come out, you know, not injured and healthy. The other 90% is going to be the strength and conditioning program, and we know what the changes that have been made this offseason.
Colby Clausen's running the show now.
Look, I play with
He's your
Colby.
guy.
I play with him. I love him dearly. Maybe 5-6 years ago, I was talking to him about you know, some of the new research that he was already doing, and it got me excited. This is before we even thought he would be here. So I feel comfortable and confident with Colby and just the direction of the program compared to when I was there. You know, I probably wouldn't be as hopeful.
Brian Logan is with us on BYU Sports Nation. Let's finish with this because you are a defensive-minded guy.
You're a defensive guy, Brian.
I'm an offensive guy. I just play defense.
And I expect it to take a few games for BYU's defense to really come together and find what they are. But how much better do you expect BYU's defense to be overall compared to last year? And this is a team that was ranked 109th in total defense last year. Frankly, they were not good in a lot of ways. So how much better in one season with all of the coaching changes and a revamped schedule, much tougher schedule, do you expect the defense to be?
Top 50.
You think they're going to be a top 50 defense?
I'd take it right now.
Yeah.
I'd take it right now.
Would you take top 70? I would. Yeah. You wouldn't take it?
I don't want top 70. I want top 50.
And that's included with, hey, BYU's in the Big 12, some dynamic offenses there.
Yeah. You know, going to practice in spring ball, the energy and the vibe is different, man. It feels like when I played, you know, everybody has a sense of urgency. They're competing. They're competitive. The first time in a while I've seen the defense be competitive. And
is that because of the scheme change? Is it because of the coaching? Is it all of it?
I think it's 50-50, right? Guys have an opportunity to go out and shine, and this is first impression, right? So if I'm a second string guy and I think I should have been first, there's no politics now because this is all new staff. So here's my opportunity. So obviously they're going to try harder. They're going to give their best. But I think this defense brings an identity. I think it's simplified, and I think it matches the talent and the characteristics of the players on this roster. You know, me, I'm a cloud cover 2 corner. My butt's to the sideline. I need 7 yards off and just let me go, right? Give me some help over the top and let me freestyle. Do not put me up on the line of scrimmage face to face with somebody. I will get, and playing man, I will get beat. Don't do that, right? And I think the last couple of years, the defense was kind of like the latter example that I gave. Defenses that don't really fit the characteristics and the skill sets of the players on the roster. I think that's different now.
Okay. Brian Logan, bringing it on BYU Sports Nation.
You're number one. Don't forget that, okay?
Thank you. And
you like this new defense because you're hearing they're going to have 5 defensive backs on the field most of the time.
That's exactly right.
And I can see through this.
Little nickel mania for BYU.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let's go.
Hey, great to have you with us, Brian.
Thanks, Brad. Way to get the wardrobe synced up as well.
Yeah,
nice job.
We didn't even plan this either.
We didn't even plan it. No, literally didn't talk about it.
I need that shirt, though.
Cougar Club.
It's a nice one. We'll tell you after.
Okay.
We'll tell you after. Join us Friday. 1981 Reviewables. The greatest men's basketball team in BYU history. Elite 8 run. Oh, was it 2011? Elite 8, baby. Danny Ainge, Fred Roberts in the gang. Fred Roberts on the program Friday, noon Eastern on BYU TV and BYU Radio.
Up next, let's use that elite word. We recap an elite program on campus right now. This is BYU Sports Nation.
Don't use it in vain.
I'm not.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
When BYU made such a difference in our lives, I think really helped mold us as to who we are. And so when we had that opportunity and came back to Boise and found out there was an active chapter, we thought, okay, that's something that I can really get behind and get involved in.
We want to promote the BYU experience all over the region. We want people who leave BYU to still stay connected.
Looking for something the whole family can enjoy this summer? There's nothing better than laughing together all summer long with the free BYU TV app. Come together.
So that makes you and I sisters?
Laugh together.
I'm sorry, it's so dark in here. Do you mind if I take off my shades? Okay.
Enjoy together.
My goodness, you don't look a day over the last time I saw you.
With your kind of humor.
It's aliens, I guarantee it.
BYU TV, bringing families together all summer long.
Follow BYU Sports Nation on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and...
Welcome back to Studio B. I am Spencer. He is Jarom. Let's roll out today's headlines.
Men's track and field wins the USTFCCCA John McDonnell Program of the Year, edging out Arkansas to win an Arkansas Coach Named Award by half a point. BYU took 3rd in cross country, 12th in indoor, and 10th in the outdoor track results this season. Congratulations. That's a big deal.
This is unbelievable. Okay, you do all of this before you're even in the Big 12, by the way. Like,
yes.
How much stronger is BYU's program going to get now that you've got a little Power 5 backing, perhaps a little more funding for that as well? Yeah, that's really, really good. Well done, Ed Eyestone, Bill G. Taylor and company. I know this is the men's specific, but the whole program is awesome.
The whole program's awesome.
It's awesome.
Yep.
Also awesome, Alicia May Mateo continues a magical golf career.
Baller.
She is qualified for the United States Women's Open. She'll tee it up July 6th through the 9th at Pebble Beach, joining a field of 150 players, including 72 of the top 75 players in the world.
Where are the other 3?
I don't know. Maybe injured. But come on, this is a major. She qualified for a major. Last season, she teed in all 13 events for BYU, received the 3rd lowest scoring average in program history, 11 top 25 finishes. Cannot wait to follow her at the United States Women's Open of Golf.
Austin Deming continues to rake in awards, this time named to the ABCA, second team All-West region. He's one of 27 players on the team and the only rep from the Beehive State. And I think he just hit another home.
Is Deming going to get drafted? Is BYU baseball going to have a guy drafted?
I hope so. They have trimmed it to what, 20 rounds, 25
rounds? Yeah, it's much shorter.
Right? Yeah.
Good luck. Daniel Schneemann got drafted in the 33rd round, and he has worked his way into AAA ball, 2 for 4 in his latest game with a double and an RBI last night for the Columbus Clippers against the Omaha Storm Chasers. Schneemann is having a fantastic season. We hope that he at some point gets the call up.
Did you like the movie Twister?
I did.
I did too.
I thought it was entertaining, right? Storm
Dorothy.
Chasers.
Yeah.
The cow flying across the road.
We got cows!
Kerry Elwes, guy who's been on BYU TV in Granite Flats, was the villain.
That's right.
in Twister.
Right. It's the sheriff, I think, in that.
He's the guy that's competing with the other group of storm chasers and Bill Paxton.
Copperton hasn't been the same since Granite Flats went off the air. I live 10 minutes away from Copperton.
Our question of the day: what is your favorite BYU win over Utah ever? There are a ton to choose from.
Every sport.
Marcus Swiner on Instagram says, Hall to Collie, November 24, 2007.
Yes.
I remember that catch and that last drive like it was yesterday.
One time Max Hall told us that the play came in on 4th down from Robert and I, but he got jumbled in the moment.
Yeah, Robert and I was flustered.
So Max called just like 4 verticals, but he told Austin at the line, give me a stop and go. And that was the difference in that play. And it kept that drive alive. That's a miraculous
An NFL cornerback bit on the fake from Austin Collie.
The day before as well, BYU beat Louisville, who's ranked 6th in the country, in Vegas in men's basketball. That changed sort of the broadcast schedule for us. If BYU had lost, BYU TV would have stayed and done a game against Old Dominion. Instead, BYU played North Carolina. ESPN picked up that game. So what did we do at 6 a.m. the next morning?
You drove.
We drove back, and my streak of seeing every game from 1995 between BYU and Utah minus my mission continued. Which is fun. The only time that streak ended was when I produced Countdown to Kickoff here, working here, ended the streak of going to the game. But it was a fun run. I think it went until 2012.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long did it go?
Minus my mission, 95 to 2012.
Well, frankly, you missed. It was just losses. So did you really miss out on much?
Yeah, I didn't miss it. I was like, I don't think we're going to win this one. So.
All right. Nolan Mickelson on Facebook says 1989.
Underrated. 70 points.
I was a freshman at BYU, and Ty Detmer and the guys put 70 points on the Utes.
Yep.
The cheerleaders were doing push-ups after every touchdown and must have been worn out after the game. It was 49-0.
Yeah.
I think BYU had 49 points at halftime. At halftime.
Just ridiculous numbers for a sophomore tight ever.
There you go. All right, up next, we feature some state-of-the-art technology that's helping BYU basketball go to the next level. You want to talk about analysis? Yeah, stay with us for the NOAA system. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
No kid is that stubborn, right? Bennett, let go of the rod! Never! This kid is that stubborn.
We're the Scroogiest Scrooges ever!
Hey, people change. Put that stubborn to work! Don't quit! Sir, yes, sir! Progress! We did it! Oh, so much for that plan.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation, live from Studio B. Alongside Jarom Jordan, I'm Spencer Linton. Now, we all know the story of Noah's Ark, Jarom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe it was the entire planet. I believe that was regional, but that's a thought for another day.
Groups of twos, all the animals come onto the Ark.
Yeah,
okay.
probably a few animals that didn't make unicorns, dinosaurs, and so on.
Okay, this is a bit of a stretch here, but hey, we fast forward to 2023.
Oh, we're talking about basketball.
There's a new Noah who's helping save BYU basketball.
And it's not Noah Waterman, although we hope he does too.
Okay, and doing so by twos and threes,
nice.
if you will.
Nice,
okay.
boy.
Yeah, Jarom and I recently visited BYU basketball's practice facility and spoke with Keegan Brown, who does a fantastic job behind the scenes for the Cougars. He's BYU basketball's director of video and analytics strategy, and his job is a lot busier with this system. To check out the state-of-the-art tech to better analyze how players shoot. It's Noah's Ark. Check it out. We've made our way to the BYU Basketball Annex, or the YMCA. It's still called that.
No one calls it that. I want it to be called that anyway.
We are with the fabulous Keegan Brown, who is the Director of Analytics and Strategy for BYU Basketball, as we explore some new technology. Noah Basketball is now a thing for BYU. Next level analytics, facial recognition, notices the guys when they come in, and it tracks any and every shot. What's the best thing about having the Noah system here?
I think the shooting has been put such a premium on it here in this program. And so being able to just have these players able to come in here, shoot basketball, come out, they already have all their numbers ready in a report that they can go on their app, they can get it printed out.
This feels like extreme accountability.
Anytime you come in, you're being tracked.
Yeah, the first couple years, like Coach Pope was really wanting to come in here and get 500 shots. And we were using Shot Tracker, and it was a little bit hard because it would fail with the shot trackers with the balls. And now we try to take all that pain away for these players. They just come in here and shoot. The board's brand new. We're the first college team to put it in, and players and even Coach Pope's loving it right now.
We're hoping there are multiple advantages with shots. Yeah. How does it evaluate a shot?
So what Noah basketball does is they have 3 variables: the arc of a shot, the depth of a shot, and then kind of the left-right of a shot. They have a big database of NBA players where we can measure the consistency, see where they kind of stack up there. And we have some like Trevin and Jax. They have some of the most consistent shots. And so with Noah, they constitute the perfect shot as having a 45-degree arc, 11 inches deep, and then 0 inches kind of left-right, just basically shoot straight.
So 2 inches kind of north towards the back iron is perfect.
Yes.
Not centered. That's interesting.
Yeah, they really love those kind of back iron shots. It has been interesting to look at players' shots during that practice time when they're actually playing against the defense and they're open shooting and kind of comparing that. So there's tons of different filters and ways we can look at a player's shot, kind of unique in terms of being able to really study the art of shooting.
Now, clearly, I mean, a lot of attention and money and time has been put into helping BYU players improve their shot. What have you noticed that you like about it when guys come in here and participate in this?
Obviously, Trevin Nell, with him being out this past year, he was really to help dig in with Spencer, kind of studying with him one-on-one. And Spencer had one of his best shooting years.
46% from the three-point line.
Yeah.
Should we expect BYU to be a better shooting team year over year with this system?
That's our hope, is trying to continue to be one of the best shooting teams in the country, and then also to be able to turn average to good shooters into great shooters.
BYU.
It's cool.
Hey, listen, they're making waves, no pun intended, with all this Noah's Ark and water terminology here. But the first college basketball program to implement this technology.
It's pretty cool. So we saw Trevin Nell, who, by the way, is looking good, made 81 out of 100 uncontested threes. That is unbelievable. That guy's a really good shooter. Obviously, that goes down when you're contested and in the flow. But they can just walk in. They have cameras that recognize, hey, it's Trevin Nell, and then he can just shoot the ball, and then it tracks it. And they can see it immediately on that board, as you saw. And like they mentioned, it's about arc, 45 degrees, depth, which you want 2 inches towards north of center, right, towards the backboard. And then left to right needs to be 0. And there's a splash zone, and it's green if they're in all 3. Like, that's where you want to be with your shot. And so they can correct things. It's not about just making it, Spencer. It's about making it a certain way, like process-based, not result-based. And BYU's getting better. I've said it before, BYU should be the best shooting team in the country because there are gyms in all the churches. Then they get to BYU, and they have an annex, and they can develop their shot at a higher level, which is awesome.
Yeah, and by first college basketball program, when I say they have advanced the technology. The Noah technology has been around. BYU is the first college program to have the full board and the full program involved.
And they see it while they go, and they can get it on their phone, and everyone else on the team sees it, by the way.
Accountability.
It's a competition. Trevin Nell showed us, he's like, yeah, I'm shooting better than so-and-so today, or whatever. That's fun.
Wow. You and I both took shots. We were like seeing if we could get like the perfect shot. The closest I got was like 53, 47, 51 or something like that.
No, you had a few 45 arcs. It was
man,
good.
Oh, man.
No, it's fun to see, man.
Yeah.
And it's also humbling because you're like, wow, I suck. Wow, I stink. Yeah.
Up next, name, image, likeness on the video game scene, but specific to one BYU individual. He's hurtling himself potentially into the homes of video game players across the country. This is BYU Sports Nation.
Who could it be?
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Does your dream of home ownership feel impossible? At Mountain America, we want to remind you the dream is alive. We are here to craft a personalized mortgage loan based on your needs. You can live your dream. And now, for a limited time, receive a free appraisal. Our one-on-one guidance and quick application process will bring your dream to life. Reach out to a Mountain America mortgage expert today.
Before I was a coach at BYU, or before I was even a player, I was a BYU fan.
We've got great energy as a team, but we have even better energy because of our fans, and it's absolutely magical.
When you hear the crowd roar, that makes it more exciting, more of an adrenaline rush.
The roar of the crowd, you can feel it on the floor, you can feel that energy, and it's unlike anywhere else in the country.
BYU Sports, it's all about the fans.
Mark?
We forgot about random acts.
We love that one. I overheard one of the kids saying, it just makes you want to be so nice to everyone. Seriously? One surprise after another. I'll never forget this day. Does it ever make you cry like it makes me cry?
Yeah, it's like a prank that's nice.
This is really beautiful. Thank you.
It makes me look at the good in people, look at the good in things.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
You demand it, we allow it. BYU Sports Nation is on demand. Download the free BYU TV and BYU Radio app or listen to the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and give it a 5-star review, please.
The Cougar Whip Around, presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner. Yeah, let's whip it and opinionate.
Mason Wake is using his NIL rights to hire an 8th grade student named Thomas Hansen to code a video game called Mason Wake's Hurdle Mania.
I love this.
Can't wait to play it. Is this a great way to use his name, image, and likeness?
It's creative. It's new. It's
Totally.
a blue ocean approach. Try something new. I saw some images of the game. It looks really fun. Yeah, and how about an 8th grader backing this? This is fantastic.
NIL is associated with making money off of it. He may not make money off this, but he is allowing his name, image, and likeness to be used in this way,
yes,
which is cool.
I love that. All right, the account Unashamed Big 12 tweeted some information about Big 12 road trips this season.
Oh, that was your burner, is it not?
It is not. Okay. Get this, BYU will have the second most miles traveled this season of all Big 12 teams. Not a shocker. We're in the West. Everyone else is far away. Yep. Behind only UCF, who's in the very far southeast. BYU's trip to West Virginia has more miles in it than Kansas State and TCU will travel all season combined. Okay? How big of a disadvantage is this for BYU?
That's an unbelievable stat. I do think it could take a toll on you over a season. I don't know if it loses you a game or two or what, but BYU's probably a little more tired than some of the other teams just from sheer travel.
Yes, it's a disadvantage.
I don't know how to quantify it.
It's a disadvantage specific to the West Virginia game because if this is like a noon kickoff Eastern time on a Saturday afternoon in Morgantown, BYU's not fared well in those games. I don't like those. So I'm hoping
I
it's
think
a
the
later
next
game.
week is probably a trap game based off that.
A trap game? Maybe the Morgantown, the Iowa State game?
Because they're so tired.
All right. Our question of the day. What's your favorite BYU win ever over Utah? Our elite voice of the day presented by PAX Healthcare Elevated. Nice. Bobby Daly on Twitter says, Beck to Harleen.
Amen.
Not only because the emotions of the game, but my little brother had pretended to be a Ute fan for 2 years to bother me. After that game, he repented, and we can celebrate together.
Repent.
Today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
Men's cross country and track and field for being the program of the year in the NCAA, and that's awesome.
So fantastic. Our thanks to today's guests, Brian Logan and Keegan Brown.
Sorry to Dennis. We ran out of time, bro, but we had time for Brian.
For Jarom, I'm Spencer. Shout out to Robbie Reed. See you tomorrow on BYU Sports Station. Go Cougs!
Wait, was Robbie the one that transferred to Michigan?